What sort of ambitions did Bonnie have?
Well, Bonnie was musically inclined. She played the piano. My mother gave us all piano lessons. She just finally stopped letting Bonnie take them because she'd play by ear, not by note. She could hear a song and she'd go home and play it.
What sort of music did she like?
Well, she liked Jimmy Rogers. She had every record that he ever made.
The singing brakeman.
Mm-hmm.
Did she have any acting ambition?
Yeah, she acted in all the plays in school. She acted. And I know so many times that a lot of times we'd go fishing on Saturdays. And I've always been a fisherman. And she didn't care anything about it. She was all over acting, you know, all over the river, acting and singing and everything. And I'd tell her, be quiet. I couldn't catch any fish. She said, oh, you'll be sorry. When I'm on Broadway and I have my name in the lights, you'll be sorry you talk to me like this.
Was she a good actress?
She was.
Billie Jean, what was Bonnie's outlook on life?
Well, Judd, I think I could tell it better by reading the poem that Bonnie wrote. Do you think that's all right?
Yes.
Okay. You have heard the story of Jesse James, of how he lived and died. If you're still in need of something to read, here is the story of Bonnie and Clyde. Now, Bonnie and Clyde are the Barrow Gang. I'm sure you all have read how they rob and steal, and how those who squeal are usually found dying or dead. There are lots of untruths to these write-ups. They are not so merciless as that. They hate all the laws, the stool pigeons, spotters, and rats. They class them as cold-blooded killers. They say they are heartless and mean, but I say this with pride that I once knew Clyde when he was honest and upright and clean. But the law fooled around, kept tracking him down and locking him up in a cell, till he said to me, I will never be free, so I'll meet a few of them in hell. This road was so dimly lighted, there was no highway sign to guide, but they made up their minds if the roads were all blind, they wouldn't give up till they died. The roads get dimmer and dimmer. Sometimes you can hardly see. Still it's fight man to man and do all you can, for they know they can never be free. If they try to act like citizens and rent them a nice little flat, about the third night they are invited to fight with a submachine gun, rat-a-tat-tat. If a policeman is killed in Dallas and they have no clues for a guide, if they can't find the fiend, they just wipe the slate clean and hang it on Bonnie and Clyde. 2 crimes have been done in America not accredited to the Barrow mob, for they had no hand in the kidnapping demand or the Kansas City depot job. A newsboy once said to his buddy, I wished old Clyde would get jumped. In these awful hard times, we might make a few dimes if 5 or 6 laws got bumped. The police haven't got the report yet. Clyde sent a wireless today saying we have a peace flag of white. We stretch out at night. We have joined the NRA. They don't think they're too tough or desperate, but they know the law always wins. They have been shot at before, but they do not ignore that death was the wages of sin. From heartbreak, some people have suffered. From weariness, some people have died. But take it all in all, our troubles are small till we get like Bonnie and Clyde. Someday they will go down together, and they will bury them side by side. To a few it means grief. To the law it's relief, but it's death to Bonnie and Clyde.
You said you met Bonnie and Clyde on several occasions. Did anything unusual happen during these meetings?
Yes, we met them one night. There was my mother and Clyde's mother and his sister and brother and the man that was driving the car. We usually met them in a field where we could see for miles, you know. So we drove down, and we had a signal. Just turn on the lights off and on so many times, and they'd know it was us, and we'd know it was them. So we drove on down the field. She didn't want to go down there. Bonnie said, Clyde, let's don't go. I don't feel right. And he said, oh, they're already parked, so let's go on. They did, and they got in the car about a car's length in front of us. And all these sound like firecrackers. Oh, just popping. Then I realized that it was guns. So the boy that was driving the car had never turned his lights out. He had the lights trained right on the car, on Bonnie and Clyde. I reached over and turned off the lights. We backed out. We took Mother and Mrs. Barrow up to a schoolhouse. The rest of us went back to just, see if maybe the car was there, or see if what we could do, see if they was hurt or something. We just drove in. Well, the paper said that 5 or 6 Maine deputies were, out, and they had a running gun battle with Bonnie and Clyde. And there were about 50 policemen. Bonnie and Clyde, I don't know how they got through the field, but they did. The car was all shot up. Bonnie and Clyde were wounded real bad. So they drove and drove and drove. They were both bleeding so bad. They made it to a well, way out maybe West Texas somewhere. They made it to a well. Clyde got out of the car, and he had to crawl to the well. He crawled so far, and he passed completely out from loss of blood. Bonnie saw him crawling. She was trying to get out of the car. They don't know how long they lay there, but Bonnie woke up with Clyde bathing her wounds. He had finally made it to get the water, and she woke up with him bathing her wounds. They were injured real bad. They left there, and they went to Oklahoma. They knew some of Pretty Boy Floyd's people. They stayed there and were taken care of by some of Pretty Boy Floyd's people.
Did Clyde ever kidnap anybody?
Yes, they were in Oklahoma once, and they looked behind, and a deputy sheriff was trailing them. Oh, he followed them for miles, and Clyde pulled aside. He said, "I'm just going to take that little man." So he got out, and the deputy sheriff stopped. Clyde went over there, got him, put him in his car. Well, he kept him about almost a week. And so when they let him go, it was away up in Kansas or someplace, So they told him, "Give us time, give us an hour anyway to get away." And he said, "All right." So he gave him more than an hour. So when we all had our trial, they had this deputy sheriff as a witness. So they asked about this particular time, and he said he was never treated any better in his life than they did. When they ate, he ate. He wasn't tied to trees, which the newspaper said he had been tied to trees and mistreated and all. And he said he really enjoyed being around them. Just 2 kids. He really enjoyed them. And told how much in love they were and all, And he said, of course, in that length of time, his shirt was dirty and all. Said Bonnie had Clyde to give him his best shirt and his best tie.
Are you telling us that Clyde Barrow was basically a kind man?
He was.
To your knowledge, did he ever hear from this deputy sheriff again?
Not that I know of.
Billie Jean, were you ever with them when Clyde pulled a holdup?
Yes, I was, one time. I didn't know that he was, gonna hold up anybody. He parked on a little side street, and he walked on around the corner. But he left the motor running, and she was in the back seat.